Hey friends, it's Janine at Jet Travels. Welcome back. We have our friend Daryl from American Queen Voyages with. Hey Daryl, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Janine. How are you?
Good. Welcome back.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit since we chatted. So we wanted to have Daryl back today because the American Queen Voyages product is very uniquely North American. So we just wanted to share it again with our clients and friends to say why it's so cool and how it's different than anything else really out on the market. So Daryl, I'll let you run with it. And I just might pipe in if there's a question I might have been talking with someone about.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. We're going to kind of share some of the newer things that we're doing a little bit here in 2023 that kind of started in 2022, just to kind of give you a little flavor of what we have to offer. Just to give you a little background on American Queen Voyages. So we are part of Hornblower Holdings. And so Hornblower is a maritime organization that is worldwide, one of the largest here in North America. American Queen Voyages just happens to be the overnight division, along with a company called Journey Beyond down in Australia. But if you've ever been to New York City or a lot of major cities, there's dining experiences, sightseeing tours. The NYC ferries are a product for Hornblower. So there's just a lot of great things that we have with that parent company. And again, they are worldwide, even reaching there down into Australia. So a lot of great things that the whole Hornblower family has to offer. As far as where we started, everything started with the American Queen. So all of our river vessels, they are authentic paddle wheels. So it's kind of a nostalgic experience that we offer. That's kind of where everything goes back to. But today we're going to be looking at some of our ships that focus on the Great Lakes, as well as up into Alaska. So something a little bit different, but just another, really great product that we have to offer. So when looking at the basics, right? So who are our guests? And typically, our guests are in that 65 plus age range. However, we are starting to see some younger folks on board. We've always had them, but we're starting to see that number drop a little bit. So this is definitely more accessible. We do have some opportunities for single travelers. In that we have some single staterooms available on different vessels. Particularly the American Queen, there's roughly 10 single staterooms, and those are priced accordingly. If you're a person with mobility issues, or you're going to be traveling with somebody with mobility issues, our river products, which we're not going to focus on today, are going to be your best bet. With those being US built and US flagged, they're going to be ADA compliant, and it's going to give you kind of the best opportunity. The vessels we're going to talk about today, we do have accessibility to them, but it's not going to be as easy as those river products. And then another great feature with our product is we do not have any age restrictions on board. So if you have younger kids that you want to travel with, you can absolutely do that. Just know there's no kids clubs activities. So it is up to the families to kind of keep them interested. But there are, some really great sites to be able to see out and about in North America. So as far as the inclusions, we've gone to a different model here in 2023. So everything is now going to be in one price. We used to have our gratuities and port fees as separate items. Now it's just one price. So the price you see on the website is the price that you're going to pay, which is definitely a nice kind of added benefit, just so that's it. This is what I'm going to be getting here for the cost. So everything's all inclusive as it has been, so that's not changing. You start off with a pre-cruise hotel night stay. So in the city that you're starting in, that's a great added benefit. You're going to get breakfast the next morning, and we're going to include the transfer from the hotel to the vessel. So that's going to be included. We also now offer airfare, so you can book airfare with us. If you do that, you can get the included transfer from the airport to the hotel, but that's only if you go that route. all of your meals on board, the food is outstanding. We focus on regional cuisine, so you are getting the tastes and flavors of the areas that you're traveling in. You've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, as well as room service being available all day. The menus are constantly changing. What I really love is, so breakfast and lunch, we're going to have some buffets for your fresh fruits, kind of quick pick items if you just wanted to grab something kind of on the go. But you'll also be able to do sit down entrees for both of them. So you can have a much more formal kind of breakfast and lunch. And then dinner, you're getting your 4 courses. You're going to have new starters and appetizers each night, plus new entrees. So you're just getting a great option. And trust me, most people, besides gaining a few pounds on our cruises, they definitely come away very happy with the food on board. We also include all beverages, so your waters, your sodas, your coffees, your teas, plus alcohol is included throughout the day. So that's something that's different than most all river cruises, is that you can actually get wine, beer, and spirits throughout the day. So you can, it's not just something with meals. So that's a really nice added benefit. We have varying entertainment. So our rivers products, we do more large stage productions. On the lakes and oceans and expedition, which we're going to focus on, you either have smaller jazz band quartet style performances on the lakes and oceans, or on the expedition, we actually focus more on the educational aspects. So you have lectures, but there's piano bar for ambiance. And then we also offer included shore excursions. So on the rivers and most of the lakes and oceans, you're going to have kind of a hop on, hop off tour where you have multiple stops. But in some cases, we'll operate more of a traditional tour. And then on the expedition, we have more of we have some expedition days, we have some land-based days. So things are a little bit different, but you get a really great mixture up in Alaska in kind of a different perspective.
Yeah, I love that everything's now included, because then there's no guessing. There's no wondering, what did I forget? What didn't I do? It's just black and white. It's one price.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier to know what you're getting right up front. We also include the Wi-Fi, so that's something that is going to be available on board. We still offer pilot house tours, even some engine room tours on some of the vessels. And then we have several different levels of suite accommodations as well. So what I really love about the product is we can really fit the need of any traveler. If you have somebody who really just wants to get on board and if they don't really care what kind of accommodations they have, they just want to experience it, all the way up to somebody who's looking for the full white glove service, because we have river butlers as well. And so as far as the experiences, we are going to start up in Alaska with our expedition product. So this just started in 2022, so finished its inaugural season. And we kind of go about this a little bit differently in that we're kind of getting off the beaten path. So a lot of people have been, to Anchorage, to Denali. They've done that really kind of northern, or I should say the northern part most people travel to for Alaska. But we're doing an inside passage really between Vancouver and Sitka. And so something that even if you've been to Alaska, this is a product that you can re-experience or revisit Alaska in a different way. And with this cruise in particular, we are looking for a little more active traveler. Because we have Zodiacs and kayaks on board that guests are using, that are included, and the wilderness and things out there is a little different than most places we travel. We just want our guests to be a little bit more mobile. So as long as you can do stairs and walk fairly regularly, you shouldn't have any issues with this product. But yes, it's something that is a little bit different than our typical river cruise. So as far as the vessel, this is a brand new ship. Well, it was brand new when they first built it, but it's only about a year or so old. But Ocean Victory can handle up to 176 guests, 88 staterooms. It's really beautiful. It's expedition. It's purpose built, and it even has some eco friendliness to it with the ability to run at zero emissions. So we're able to get a little bit closer to wildlife without running the engines, which does allow us to, as a sports fan, we get to call audible. So whenever they have the opportunity to kind of go off course, they will. So really no two itineraries are ever going to be the same because we're going to try to get you as close to nature as possible and really give you the experience that you're hoping for up in Alaska. And as we kind of look through some of the public spaces, you can just see, I mean, this really is a beautiful high-end feeling vessel. There's tons of, common areas, a great lecture room where expedition guides and naturalists and experts that we have in the area will be able to come and share and talk with you. Other viewing areas in the observation lounge, a really beautiful dining room, a secondary restaurant, as we have secondary restaurants on all of our vessels that do not require typically don't require reservations, although sometimes they'll let you know if you need them, but those are always available. This vessel in particular has an infinity edge pool as well as a couple of hot tubs. So, what better way to spend some of your scenic sailing than on the top deck? And no pool would be complete without the pool deck bar. You just can't have that in travel, especially when it's all inclusive.
Right.
And then there's a great mudroom as well. So we do have some of the expedition gear, boots and things that you can actually use. But we do recommend if you have any of that yourself, any of the waterproof stuff, that you would, bring that. But this is a great storage area. So you don't have to bring that up and down to your staterooms. And then speaking of staterooms, there's several different levels. And as you can see, I'm going to kind of go through quickly, but most of these are going to have their own private veranda. They're beautifully appointed, plenty of square footage throughout on these different levels of staterooms. And even as we get into some with what we call a French veranda, where that window will slide down to kind of give you that fresh air, or kind of one of those portholes, you're still getting a really nice room. And then in terms of the itinerary, I mentioned that this is something that is very different. So we're going to be sailing between Vancouver and Sitka. These are going to be 12 or 13 day itineraries. And so your starting point, Sitka or end point is really one of those unique and charming towns up in Alaska. It's just a really great entry point or finishing point, as well as Vancouver, British Columbia. So those two areas, just absolutely beautiful, on this journey. But we're going to have a few days of what we call scenic sailing. So you'll stay on board and we'll, again, try to get up and close to nature as best we can. But going through places like Frederick Sound, you're going to have, all sorts of icebergs, and you'll find out on board that they've got multiple names for these. So your kind of smaller ones are these bergy bits and growlers. So you just have, an abundance of nature, marine life on these days, seals, jellyfish, getting close to the whales. What I found out is we actually work with a company that does what is it called? Citizen science. So any of these pictures that we have, we can send to the company for the whales, and they can actually tag and track whales. And so you'll actually be able to see when those whales had been last in this area or what kind of routes they've run. So it's something that's really cool that we're able to do up in Alaska. Beautiful areas like Fjordlands, Johnstone Strait. They're just, great areas. We're also going to have what we call our expedition days. So we'll basically stay tendered, and we'll use our kayaks and zodiacs. You'll alternate in groups and be able to try everything throughout the day, including some hands-on science. But places like Tracy Arm Wilderness, you've got your different glaciers, Endicott Arms, Dawes Glacier, the waterfall coast in Baranof Wilderness, where we can kind of alternate based on which area has more going on at different times. Bay of Pillars is another great spot that we stop in. Misty Fjords, which, these are basically carved over 50 to 70 million years. And so you just have some unbelievable scenery as you're kind of getting out on those kayaks and Zodiacs.
Yeah, the small ship really gives you a totally different experience versus any other ships. Because of the size, you're just at this huge advantage because you can go places the big ships can't go. And you're not fighting with a couple thousand people to get the sites or to get somewhere to do something. There's under 200 people on board. It's just a very different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And really the only place we have those large interactions is going to be in Ketchikan, one of our port days, so to speak. And that's, mainly because in that area, that's really the big spot to be able to refuel and do all those things. But it's still a really beautiful place to be able to go to. But small places like you're talking about, like Cape, where there's under 600 residents, right? And so we do things with the Tlingit culture, so you get that First Nations people experience. So you're really, we really focus on the cultural aspects of where we're traveling to. Petersburg is a Norwegian village up there, so you're getting kind of that history in a different perspective. Wrangell is a small fishing town. And again, you're just getting some different unique perspectives as you're here. And then Ketchikan, a lot of history and just another really kind of beautiful area to be able to get off. But there's just so much to see. And again, it's just a different perspective on Alaska. And then lastly, we're going to look at our Lakes and Oceans product. So these vessels are going to be a little bit different. They're going to have a little more of a classic cruise ship feel, but again, we're only going to be operating with about 190 passengers, so 200 at capacity, but just kind of, again, has these really great common areas that you're able to interact with other guests. You're able to grab drinks, great dining areas, fully enclosed secondary restaurant with windows that open for fresh air, and a nice sun deck. So again, when you're traveling through the Great Lakes, you're able to see more of those areas. As far as accommodations, we do have a nice owner suite on board. The rest of the accommodations are going to be very similar in size and character. The one difference is this category AA. These are the only staterooms that do have outdoor access. And in fact, you actually have to get into these staterooms from outside. So that's something to keep in mind if you are somebody who does want, that what we would call a veranda, but you have a few chairs outside your stateroom. The rest are going to have large windows to be able to look at. And so as we move through, I'm going to kind of go reverse order on these itineraries and then really just focus on the Great Lakes. So we do have a southeast coast, which is round trip. It's really round trip Jacksonville, but just kind of gives you some southern charm and some parts of Florida. Up in New England, we'll have this Boston to St. John, which just kind of hits some of those iconic Northeast shores with Martha's Vineyard, Rockland, Bay Harbor, Bar Harbor, excuse me. We also have the Canadian Maritime. So this is where we'll kind of touch into Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Montreal, just kind of giving you some of those unique areas along the St. Lawrence Seaway. And then we get into the Great Lakes. So we'll have variations like the Chicago to Montreal, Detroit to Montreal, or even a really great round trip Chicago, which focuses on Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. So we do get up to like Thunder Bay, Duluth, which I know is close to Ashland up there. So as we get
right in our back door.
So we do kind of touch through there. But the main focus is really this Chicago to Toronto. So we touch all 5 Great Lakes on this itinerary. You're really getting the highlights of the area and the things that you can do. Obviously, when you start or end in Chicago, with most of the itineraries, there are some, especially on weekends, where we can't get into Navy Pier, but you do start in Navy Pier. And there's really no better place to get that feel or the skyline of Chicago than Navy Pier. And so seeing that is really a great way to start or end. Mackinac Island is one of those destinations that a lot of people have thought about going to, but haven't been there. And obviously, with no motor vehicles on the island, you have a really different kind of town, the way it's built. Obviously, there's tons of bicycles. There's more fudge than you could ever possibly want, as well as horse-drawn carriages. So all of this is really included in that trip to Mackinac Island. We'll pass through the Sioux Locks and Sault Ste. Marie. And so again, that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily see, but getting to watch the vessels go through the locks. We dock right in the heart of Detroit. So you've got the history of Motown and the automobile. You can even add on a trip to the Henry Ford Museum. And then we dock again in the heart of Cleveland, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is an included tour. So getting a chance to see all the levels of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Museum of Art. We will pass through Port Colborne and the Welland Canal. And at this point, we'll drop our guests into the buses and take them over to Niagara Falls to actually get an included falls tour on the Canadian side, as Hornblower has its own vessel. So that's another great inclusion with the highlights and finishing off in Toronto. So it's a really great kind of May through September itinerary, which May through September is also the same for that Alaskan expedition cruise. So that is all I have in terms of what I wanted to share. If you have questions, please contact Jet Travel and Tours, and they'll be glad to go through anything with you and get you on board one of these amazing itineraries.
Yeah, the itineraries are great. The ships are fabulous. So it's really, you can't go wrong, let's be honest with it. And it's a really cool experience you can't do anywhere else. I mean, if you did road trips for these places, it would take you 4 times as long just because it's hard to get there. And plus, who wants to pack and unpack all that time? So this is a great option for anyone who's looking to see North America in a little different experience.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. Well, Daryl, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you have any more questions, hit us up. If we don't know the answers, we'll definitely reach out to Daryl. And then stay tuned for some more fun adventures coming your way. Thanks again, Daryl.
Thanks, Janine. I appreciate it.
Thanks.